G'day, it's Rob here again. Well, in the last few videos I've shown you how you can modify or mount a HILDA 400 watt rotary tool to make a decent little, very handy, good and rigid tool post grinder for a small lathe. A lot of the tool post grinders you get are way too big, they won't fit on a small lathe. The HILDA works very well. Now, with that, once you've got it, you can do all sorts of things. Now, one thing you can do is sharpen drills with it. Now, a lot of people probably don't know this, but I've used tool post grinders like for years, and there's plenty of tricks you can do with them. And one thing you can do with them is reprofile your drills. You know, grind them so that you get the taper evenly distributed on the drill bit. You'd be spinning this in the chuck, and you'd basically just be grinding in on the angle you want, which is about 55-60 degrees, to reprofile the end so that both of the flutes are uniform and at the correct angle. The problem with that is you then have to grind the back relief on it by hand, because obviously when you grind it as it's spinning, it's going to be the same angle and amount of metal all the way around. It's just going to be a cone, and a cone will not cut. So you have to put back relief on. And yes, I generally just grind them on by hand. That's okay, that works fine, but of course you've got to be careful that you don't interfere with the edge of the cutting flute. You have to just grind carefully up to it and then not take any of it away. But if you're used to sharpening drills by hand, it's no big deal. You can get all sorts of fancy drill sharpening equipment, and most of it I've used doesn't work very well, and if it does work, it's horribly expensive. So I'll show you a good trick you can do with the tool post grinder. So okay, you reprofiled your drill tip, you've ground some back relief on with a normal grindstone. Okay, when you do that, even if you bugger up the angles or the uniformity of the flutes a bit, it's no big deal. And what I'm going to show you can be used to just finish off your back relief grinding, make sure everything's uniform. And you can also use it just to touch up existing drills where the edge is busted, or in this case here, you can see it's curved, it's been ground by hand. I did that. And that's not really right, because it shouldn't have a curved edge, it should be straight, like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to rectify this curved edge, and as you can see, it's got very thin and it's chipping, and it's not suitable really to be used like that. So what's the trick with a tool post grinder? I'll show you. What you're going to do is use the circumference of the disc and the center line of the drill bit to grind an angular, a concave, very slightly concave relief on the back side of your cutting edge. Now, to do that, bear in mind your drill will be on the center line. So what you do is, it's just basic engineering or basic physics. This dotted line here represents the center line of your drill bit, which is in the chuck, so that your cutting edge will be on the horizontal. Now it's on the horizontal, so this is this top edge here. But what you do is you lower your tool post grinder down below center line. You use a big diameter stone, and you can see what's going to happen. Because of the curvature of the stone or the cutting disc, it's going to actually cut a concave. It's going to grind a concave into the backside of your cutting edge. And at the same time, as you run it across the cutting edge, you're going to even up, straighten up the cutting edge. You have your flute on the horizontal, you run your grinding disc across it, below center, you can see what's happening. This round stone's coming along underneath, and it's grinding a concave. Once you've done one side, you keep everything in the same position. You've got your carriage locked down, you rotate around the chuck to get the next flat on the horizontal. You repeat the process using the top slide just to move the grinder across. And not only will you have two concave sharp cutting edges, the angles of both cutting edges will be exactly the same. Now you can't go too mad doing this. You can only do this, you know, to a light degree. Otherwise, you will basically put too much of a square end on your cutting tip. But that's just like any grinding of drills. You know, that's one thing you have to consider. But if you want to dress up sharpen up, refresh your drills, this is the way to do it. So we'll do this one, and we'll see how well it comes up. So this is what we're starting with. You can see it's got a curvature in it. That should be straight across. You can see there's lots of back relief. I mean, you can have as much back relief as you like. It's not going to matter. You know, grind on plenty. It's not really going to matter. At the end of the day, this cutting edge is doing all the work. The back relief is just clearing the chips away. But of course, you have to have back relief to allow the thing to cut. You know, otherwise it's just going to be a cone. So yeah, we're going to straighten that up. We're going to make both these flutes uniform, and we're going to put back relief on the cutting edge, a concave relief on it. This is much the same as you can do when sharpening end mills and slot mills. I use the same technique for them as well. It works perfectly well. Okay, let's do it. Here we have the HILDA rotary tool mounted in the mounting block that would normally put it on centre, but of course in this situation we've got it flipped upside down, and as the bottom section is deeper than what is the top section, of course it will now push the disc below the centre line of the lathe. So now we just basically mount our drill in the chuck, get the first flute level, and then I'll show you basically how this all works. So we've got our drill mounted in the chuck. We've got the top slide at the angle to match your cutting edge on the drill. It should be about 55 degrees, 50 to 60. It can vary, you know, but normally you don't want to cut them too pointy. You want to keep it at about 60 is a good angle. So what you do is you look in from this angle, and you can then see how the flute lines up as far as being 90 degrees to the disc. So you can easily see by eye how good it is, and just easily line it up like that. That looks pretty good to me. You can try using a ruler on there, but it doesn't work very well because, you know, your surface is very narrow and it's going to rock around. So I just find doing it by eye, you can get it very accurate. Then what we do now is we have to start up the HILDA, bring it in, move it in with the top slide, bring it in so it just comes up against the edge of the highest point of the cutting edge, and then we lock down the carriage and we do a cut. So we'll start her up, bring it in. It's just touching, lock down the carriage. Now we'll move it back and forwards with our top slide. You can see now that this cutting edge is straight, and the one to be done is still curved. So now we basically line this up at 90 degrees and we grind that one. We haven't moved the carriage, we'll just come straight through and clean it up. Okay, I've just done that on one pass and see what sort of result we've got. If you've got any grinding marks, you can take them out if you want to, but it's not really going to matter. Also, when you do this, you use the biggest diameter stone that you can use. Otherwise, if you go too small, it will be very hard to judge and it will scallop in too much. So you use a big stone. This is 75 mil. All right, let's take this out. Let's see what we've got. All right, here's our job. Dead straight, razor sharp. Both exactly the same angle. You've got some back relief. You've still got your, due to the curvature, you've got some very slightly concave back relief. You've got your normal back relief. And here, same thing there. And now if we put this in the drill press and try it out, it should cut with 2 even cuts coming off. I mean, that's as good as you could hope for. Does a great job. Easy peasy way to do this. So there you go, piece of cake. It's just another tip from my workshop, and it does the job quite nicely. The freshen up drills, and as I said, you can grind the profile on the lathe and then grind the back relief and then do that by hand and then do the final finish off. And if there's any unevenness in the back relief, it's not really going to matter because this will dress it up 100%. And yeah, good to go. All right, that's it from me. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.